The first time I said okay and meant it, we were standing in a fluorescent hallway outside courtroom B. It smelled like old paper, floor cleaner, and nerves. A clerk called names like it was a grocery deli counter. People sat on hard benches, staring at their phones like they were trying not to be seen. Leela walked up fast, cheeks pink from the cold, hair still perfect. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask why she'd gotten a notice from the venue. She went straight to the part where she still thought she could steer the story. "You really did it," she said, like I'd just keyed her car. "You really went and embarrassed me." I looked at her, then at the manila folder in my hand with my lease release paperwork and the copy of my ring return receipt clipped to the front. I nodded once. "Okay," I said. She blinked like she was waiting for anger and didn't know what to do with calm. Hey friends, please like this video and leave a comment with your impressions. This will be a great help. Thank you. We never tire of reminding you, it's all thanks to you. I'm Grant, I'm 42. I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I work as a safety coordinator for a commercial construction company. It's not glamorous. It is a lot of boots, checklists, and being the guy who says, that ladder is not tied off, even when nobody wants to hear it. I keep things steady. I like plans. I like receipts. I like problems that can be solved with a phone call and a signature. Leela was 39. She worked in marketing for a local fitness studio chain. She was good at people. She could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they were part of something. She had energy that filled up space. When we met, I thought it was the perfect balance. I was the calm. She was the spark. We dated for a little over 2 years before I proposed. Not in a stadium, not on a jumbotron, just on a Sunday morning at our rented little house on the east side with the windows fogged up from the kettle and snow piled against the porch steps. I had pancakes on a plate. I had a ring in my pocket. I asked. She said yes. She cried. I cried. It was simple and it felt honest. We decided on a wedding the next fall. Nothing huge, about 80 people, a venue on a lake outside town, a DJ, a photographer, a caterer that did comfort food well. Leela liked the idea of elegant but warm. I liked the idea of paid for. We made a shared email address just for wedding stuff. It was Leela's idea. She named it something cute and sentimental. We gave it to vendors. We put deposits on a spreadsheet. We kept everything in one place so nothing would get lost. And that's the part that still makes me shake my head. The proof didn't come from snooping. It didn't come from stalking. It came from the place we built together to organize our life. I should tell you I didn't confront her right away. Not that day. I didn't flip out. I didn't demand her phone. I didn't call her names. I just watched, listened, and waited for the moment where the truth could sit on the table without me having to force it there. Looking back, there were red flags. Not "she's a monster" red flags. Just little things that made my gut tighten, then relax when she smiled and said I was overthinking. The first one was money, not because she was broke, because she was vague. We agreed to split bills in a clear way. Rent and utilities were on auto pay from my account and she sent her half on payday. At first it was like clockwork, then it became "I'll get you tomorrow." Then it was "It's been a crazy week." Then it was "Do you really need it right now?" It was never a fight, it was a slow slide, and I kept telling myself it was stress, not character. The second one was her phone. I am not the kind of guy who thinks a phone is a confession booth. People deserve privacy, but Leela used to leave it on the counter. Then she started taking it everywhere. Bathroom, laundry room, even when she walked the trash out. And when a message came in, she would tilt the screen away like the sunlight might steal it. The third one was her new habit of being too tired for things that mattered to me, but never too tired for things that didn't. She'd cancel dinner with my sister, Megan, because she had a headache, then go have a 2-hour quick drink with the girls downtown. She'd say she couldn't come to my job site barbecue because it was not her scene, but she'd dress up and go to a networking event on a Tuesday night like it was the Oscars. The fourth one was a name that started showing up more than it should have. Evan. At first it was casual. We'd be watching a movie and she'd say, "Evan and I saw this when it came out." Or we'd drive past a restaurant and she'd say, "Evan used to love their ribs." She said it the way some people talk about an old college roommate, like it was just history. Then the way she said it changed, softer, like a door in her mind was cracked open. One night we were on the couch and she got a call. She looked at the screen, stood up fast and said, "It's my sister. I should take this." She walked into the hallway and closed the door. Her sister's name is Paula. I like Paula. She's loud, she's blunt, she means well. But Paula never calls at 10:30 on a Wednesday to have a private conversation behind a closed door. I didn't say anything, I just filed it away. The fifth red flag was wedding planning itself. Leela loved it at first. She made mood boards. She toured venues. She argued about table linens like it was foreign policy. And then, around the time we put the second deposit down, she started dragging her feet. She would ignore vendor emails for days. She'd miss calls from the caterer and say, "I'll call her back." She stopped talking about our wedding and started saying the wedding, like it was a work project, not a life choice. Then she had a sudden burst of enthusiasm again. It wasn't about flowers or vows. It was about a reset. "We should do a weekend away," she said one night while scrolling her phone. "Just us, like a little romantic recharge." I liked that idea. I work a lot. I carry stress home more than I should. A quiet weekend sounded good. "Sure," I said. "Pick a place. We'll look at dates." She smiled, quick and bright, then went right back to her screen. I noticed her thumb moving fast, like she already knew exactly what she was doing. That was the week everything broke, not in a loud way, in a quiet, email notification way. It was a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays are our toolbox talk mornings on site. I'd been out in the cold, listening to guys complain about gloves and deadlines. Then I drove back to the office with the heater blasting and my coffee cooling in the cup holder. When I walked in, Marcus, my coworker, was at the printer doing his usual grumble. "You ever notice," he said, "printers only jam when you're in a hurry?" I laughed because he was right. I set my lunch bag down, sat at my desk, and opened the shared wedding email on my computer. I was looking for the updated invoice from our venue coordinator, Jenna. We had a deadline coming up for another deposit, and I like to pay things on time. At the top of the inbox was an email with the subject line, "Your weekend retreat confirmation, Lakeside Serenity package." I thought, oh, maybe Leela actually booked that romantic weekend. Maybe this was the confirmation. I clicked. The email started cheerful, a lot of exclamation points, a lot of "we can't wait to host you." Then my eyes hit the part with the names. Reservation, Leela Hart plus Evan Brooks. My brain did this slow, stupid thing where it tried to turn the words into something else, like maybe it was a typo, like maybe the vendor had autofilled the wrong name. But the email didn't stop there. It listed the dates, it listed the room type, it listed add-ons, champagne on arrival, couples massage, late checkout. And then it listed the payment method. Deposit received, $600, card ending in 1842. That was my card. I knew the last 4 digits the way you know your own birthday. I stared at the screen until the letters stopped looking like letters and started looking like shapes. I felt cold in my chest, like I'd swallowed ice water. I didn't shout, I didn't call her, I didn't slam my desk. I just sat there and breathed. I didn't confront her, not yet. Because the first thing I needed was to be sure of what I was seeing, not emotionally sure, factually sure. I forwarded the email to my personal account. I saved it as a PDF. I took a screenshot and saved it in a folder labeled Taxes 2025 because I'm boring like that and boring is safe. I checked the vendor's website. It was real. I checked the confirmation number. It was real. Then I checked the wedding email, sent folder. There was an outgoing message from Leela to the retreat place from 2 days earlier. It was short. "Hi, confirm for Friday. Also, please keep it discreet." Discreet. I sat back in my chair. My coffee tasted like ash. Marcus asked me a question about a job site inspection, and I answered like a robot because my body was still doing work even though my mind had just taken a hard turn. I waited until lunch. I went out to my truck. I called my bank. I asked about the charge. I explained calmly that I did not authorize a deposit for a booking under someone else's name. The bank froze the card and opened a dispute. They issued a new one. They told me to document everything. They told me to file a police report if the merchant refused to refund. They did not sound shocked. They sounded like they'd heard it all before. Then I called the retreat vendor. I did not accuse. I did not rant. I said, "I have a booking confirmation sent to our shared email address. My card was used without my authorization. The reservation is in my partner's name and another man's name. I need that charge reversed immediately." The woman on the phone got quiet. She asked for the confirmation number. I gave it. She asked for the last 4 digits. I gave it. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "We can cancel, but the deposit is typically non-refundable." "I understand policies," I said. "This is not a policy issue. This is unauthorized use of my card. If you do not refund it, my bank will pursue it as fraud. There was a pause, then a softer tone. Let me speak with my manager. She came back 5 minutes later. We will process a full refund today, she said. You will receive an email confirmation. Thank you, I said. That was the moment something inside me settled, not because I felt better, because I knew I could handle the practical parts. I didn't have to spiral, I just had to move in a straight line. I went back to work, I did my job, I made notes, I checked harnesses, I signed forms, I watched the clock. That night, Leela came home smelling like citrus perfume and cold air. She kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. She started talking about dinner. Do we have chicken? She asked, opening the fridge. Or should we order something? I looked at her back as she leaned into the light of the fridge. Her hair was pinned up. She looked normal. That was the strangest part. The world looked the same. Order, I said. She chatted while she tapped her phone. I listened. I nodded. My body felt steady, like it belonged to someone who wasn't hurt. After we ate, she curled up on the couch with her laptop. The wedding email was open on the screen. I could see it from where I sat. She didn't look at the retreat email, not once. That told me something important. She wasn't panicking because she didn't know I knew. She was just moving forward like she planned to. So I made my plan. I slept lightly. At 2 a.m, I got up, went to the kitchen, and wrote down a list on a yellow notepad. Not dramatic, just steps. Step 1 was housing. We rented the house. Both our names were on the lease. The lease had 6 months left. I could not just change locks and toss her stuff. I needed to do it clean. Step 2 was money. We had a joint savings account for the wedding and a couple shared bills. I needed to separate those in a way that was fair and documented. Step 3 was the vendors. If the wedding was off, deposits needed to be handled quickly. Some deposits were refundable within certain windows. Some were not. Timing mattered. Step 4 was the ring. I knew what I was going to do with it, not as punishment, as closure. Step 5 was communication. I wasn't going to get pulled into long conversations where she rewrote the past. I was going to say what needed to be said, once, then move to email and paperwork. The next day, while Leela was at work, I took an early lunch and met with Denise, our property manager. Denise was in her 50s. She wore reading glasses on a chain and had the calm, tired voice of someone who has seen every kind of tenant drama you can imagine. I told her I need to be removed from the lease. I will pay the fee. I will give proper notice. She raised an eyebrow like she knew exactly what happened, but didn't need the details. Wisconsin requires consent from all parties, she said. Both names are on it. She has to sign. I understand, I said. What are my options? Denise slid a paper across the desk. Lease buyout, 30 days notice. You pay 2 months rent. We relist the property. You're done. It wasn't cheap, but I had savings, and I had my sanity. I'll do it, I said. Denise nodded. Bring me the written notice. Both signatures required for the buyout agreement. Can I submit my notice now? I asked. Yes, she said, but you'll still need to sign the agreement. I thanked her and left. In my truck, my hands shook for the first time, not because of fear, because doing the next right thing makes it real. That evening, Leela came home late. She said there was a special campaign meeting. She made a show of how exhausted she was. She didn't notice that my card in my wallet was different. She didn't ask why the bank called her, because our shared wedding savings account had been accessed. I didn't move the money yet. I just logged in and printed statements, receipts, dates, a clean trail. On Thursday, I did one more check of the wedding inbox. I wasn't hoping for anything. I just needed to see if there was more. There was. A reply from Leela to an email thread with our venue coordinator, Jenna. Jenna had asked for our final guest count estimate. Leela's reply said, we might need to adjust. Waiting on Evan's schedule. I'll confirm soon. Evan's schedule. I stared at that line until my eyes watered. It was not an accident. It was not closure. It was not a random coffee with an old friend. She was weaving him into our future. That night, I finally confronted her, not in a way that made me proud, in a way that was quiet and clear. She was in the bathroom, brushing her teeth. The faucet ran. The electric toothbrush buzzed like a small machine. I stood in the doorway with my phone in my hand. I didn't wave it around. I didn't shove it in her face. I waited until she turned off the water. "Layla," I said. She looked at me in the mirror. "Yeah." "I saw the retreat confirmation," I said, "the one for you and Evan with my card." For a split second, her face went blank. Then her expression shifted to offended, like I'd accused her of stealing office pens. "Why were you in the wedding email?" she snapped. "Because that's the first move, not denial, blame for finding out." "We both use it," I said. She scoffed. "It's not what you think." "It has your name," I said. "It has his name. It has my card." She put the toothbrush down too hard. "It was just a weekend. I needed to talk to him." "A weekend retreat with couples massages," I said, "and champagne." Her eyes flashed. "Stop making it sound dirty." I nodded slowly. "Okay." That word again, it wasn't passive. It was the sound of a door closing. She crossed her arms. "Evan and I have history, you knew that." "I knew you dated," I said. "I didn't know you were booking romantic weekends with him and charging me for it." She stepped closer. "You are being dramatic. I didn't sleep with him." I believed in that moment that she might be telling the truth, and it didn't matter. I held my voice steady. "This isn't a courtroom. I'm not here to argue definitions. You made plans with another man while planning a wedding with me. That is enough." She stared like she couldn't process enough without a screaming match. "What do you want?" she demanded. "I want you to understand what happens next," I said. "The wedding is off." She laughed once. It was sharp. "You can't just decide that." "I can," I said. "I am deciding that." Her voice rose. "So that's it. You're just leaving because I talked to someone." "You didn't just talk," I said. "You planned, you hid, you used my money. You wrote his name into our vendor emails." She looked stunned, then angry. "You're punishing me." "I'm protecting myself," I said. I turned and walked back to the bedroom. My heart hammered. My hands were steady. She followed me, still talking, words spilling out fast. "You're insecure, you're controlling. You never understood what I needed. Evan understands me. He knows me." I stopped at the edge of the bed and looked at her. "Then you should be with him," I said, "not me." That was the end, not a slam, not a threat, just a fact. The next morning, I started the logistics. First, I emailed every vendor from the shared wedding account. Short emails, polite, no drama. "We are canceling our event. Please confirm any refundable amounts and the method of refund." I copied my personal email on every thread. Jenna, the venue coordinator, replied within an hour. She sounded genuinely sorry. She asked if everything was okay. I said, "It's not, but thank you." She confirmed the cancellation policy and gave dates for partial refunds. I followed the policy. I didn't beg, I didn't accuse. I just made sure the numbers were right. Second, I went to the bank. I closed the joint wedding savings account, not by draining it and disappearing, by splitting it clean. I printed the last 6 months of deposits. I calculated exactly what each of us put in. Leela had contributed less than she claimed. "Because of those I'll get you tomorrow weeks." I still split it based on actual deposits, not emotion. Half of her contributions went to her. Half of mine stayed with me. I had the teller print the closure form. I kept a copy. Third, I spoke to a local attorney, not because I wanted to destroy her, because I wanted to be sure I didn't step on a legal landmine with the lease. The attorney told me the same thing Denise did. Get it in writing. Offer reasonable notice. Do not remove her property. Do not change locks. Keep communication in email. So I did. I drafted a simple letter. "I am ending the relationship. I am moving out. I am initiating a lease buyout. Please sign by this date or we will proceed with standard notice and you can remain if you qualify a loan." I printed it. I signed it. I put it in an envelope. I left it on the kitchen table next to the key bowl. That night, Leela didn't come home until after midnight. When she did, she walked in like she owned the air. "You told your mother," she said, tossing her bag down. "I told my sister," I said, "because she asked why you weren't answering wedding questions." Leela's eyes narrowed, "So now everyone thinks I'm the villain." "I didn't call you names," I said. "I told them the wedding is off." She paced, angry energy bouncing off the walls. You're doing this to make me look bad. I'm doing this because it's over, I said. She stopped, then changed tactics. That's another thing I learned. When anger doesn't work, tears arrive like a second act. Her face crumpled. Grant, please, you're throwing away everything. Evan he's just a chapter, you're my future. I didn't argue. I didn't say, if I'm your future, why is his name on your weekend retreat? Because I already said it. I didn't need to say it again. I just asked, calm, will you sign the lease buyout? She stared. That's what you care about right now. Yes, I said, that's what matters next. She didn't answer. She went to bed without brushing her teeth. I slept on the couch. 2 days later, she went on what she called a work trip to Chicago. She packed nicer clothes than usual. She left in a hurry. She kissed me on the cheek like we were still a team. I watched her taillights disappear down the street. I didn't feel triumph. I felt clarity. I called Denise. I told her I was ready to proceed with the buyout and I would pay my part. Denise said, we still need her signature. I know, I said, but I'm giving notice today. I emailed Leela the letter as a PDF. I wrote one sentence, please confirm receipt. Please sign by Friday at 5 p.m. Then I started moving. I rented a small storage unit near my job site. Marcus helped me. He didn't ask questions. He just showed up with gloves and that look men get when they decide loyalty is action, not words. We moved my tools first, then my clothes, then the things that were mine and only mine. I didn't take anything that could be argued. I didn't touch her jewelry. I didn't touch her laptop. I didn't take the blender we bought together. I left it on the counter. By Wednesday, the house looked the same if you didn't pay attention, but the drawers were emptier. The closet was half bare. My presence was being packed into cardboard quietly. On Thursday, I got an email notification on my phone from the wedding inbox. It was from Evan. He had replied to the retreat confirmation thread, the same thread that had started all of this. Looking forward to it, he wrote, miss you. No greeting, no apology, no awareness that he was typing into a shared wedding email address, or maybe he was aware and didn't care. That was the moment I realized Evan wasn't the core problem. He was a symptom. Leela had opened a door and invited him in. The betrayal wasn't that a man existed. The betrayal was that she chose him while keeping me in place. Friday came, 5 p.m. passed. No signature. At 6:30, I got a call from Leela. Why are you emailing me like I'm some stranger? She demanded. Because you haven't responded, I said. I've been busy, she snapped. Okay, I said, will you sign the lease buyout? Silence, then in a quieter voice, if I sign, where am I supposed to go? That was the first real question she asked that week. You can keep the house if you qualify, I said. Denise will run the numbers. If you don't, we follow the buyout and both move on. You're being cold, she said. I'm being clear, I said. Then she said the line I will never forget, because it explained everything. You always do this, she said. You act like feelings don't matter. Evan doesn't do that. He makes me feel alive. I nodded even though she couldn't see it. Then choose him, I said, but don't ask me to fund it. She hung up. That weekend, I moved the last of my things out. I didn't do it while she was at work because she wasn't working. She was in Chicago. I did it while the house was quiet and nobody could turn it into a scene. I cleaned my rooms, I vacuumed, I wiped down the bathroom, I took pictures of everything, time-stamped, walls, floors, appliances. I left the keys on the counter. I wrote a short note, not poetic, not cruel. Leela, I have moved out. I have paid my portion of the lease buyout fee and provided notice. Please contact Denise to sign if you want the buyout processed. Please do not contact my family. If you need to discuss property or paperwork, email me, Grant. I left the engagement ring in its box next to the note. I didn't throw it at her. I didn't pawn it. I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just didn't want it in my pocket anymore. Then I walked out, locked the door, and sat in my truck for a full minute with my hands on the steering wheel. The street looked normal. A dog barked somewhere. A neighbor's porch light flickered. Life didn't pause for betrayal. I drove to my brother's place across town. He had a spare room. He also had rules. You can stay as long as you need, he said, but you don't get to live in a fog. I don't plan to, I said. The next week was the fallout. Leela didn't email, she didn't sign, she went straight to people. First was Paula, her sister. Paula texted me a long message that started with, "I don't know what you think you're doing." Then came a message from Harold, our pastor. Harold wasn't a flying monkey in the cruel sense. He was a kind older man who believed relationships could be repaired if you tried hard enough. He asked if we could talk. I said yes because I respect him. We met at a coffee shop. He listened. I didn't dump details. I didn't show him screenshots. I just said there was a breach of trust involving another man. There was also unauthorized spending. I am ending the engagement. Harold sighed like he was carrying a weight. People make mistakes, he said gently. Have you considered counseling? I considered it, I said. Then I saw the retreat confirmation. And then I saw the message from Evan saying he missed her. That's not a one-time mistake. That's a choice. He looked at me for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. If that is your boundary, he said, then I will respect it. That meant more than he probably knew. Then came the bigger narrative shift. Leela started telling people I got cold feet, that I panicked, that I didn't want commitment, that I used money to control her. I didn't defend myself to everyone. I didn't call a group meeting. I didn't post online. I only corrected it when it touched my life in a practical way. When her mother emailed me asking why I abandoned her daughter, I replied one time. I did not abandon anyone. I ended an engagement due to a breach of trust. I will not discuss details. Please direct questions about the lease to Denise. When Paula texted again, I replied one time. I understand you want to defend your sister. Please stop contacting me. If you continue, I will block this number. Then I blocked it. Leela tried a different approach. She showed up at my job site. That is the kind of thing that could have turned ugly if I let it, so I didn't let it. She stood by the gate in a long coat, hair done, looking like she wanted someone to see her as the wronged woman. I walked over with Marcus beside me, not as a muscle move, as a witness. Can we talk? She asked, voice soft. Not here, I said. Then where? She pressed. Email, I said. Her eyes flashed. You're hiding behind paperwork. I'm protecting myself, I said. She took a step closer. Evan is out of the picture. I told him to back off. I didn't react. Okay, I said. She looked almost desperate. Grant, I chose you. I always knew you were the one. That word chose hit me like a joke that wasn't funny. You booked a romantic weekend with him, I said. You used my card. You wrote his name into our vendor emails. If that's choosing me, I don't want it. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Then she did something that finally sounded like truth. I didn't think you'd actually leave, she said. There it was, not love, not confusion, assumption. I did, I said, and I'm not coming back. I turned and walked away. Marcus didn't say anything until we were back inside the trailer. You okay? He asked. I nodded, yeah, I said, and I meant it, which surprised me. 2 weeks later, Denise called. She signed the buyout, Denise said. She's upset, but she signed. You're released from the lease as of next month. Thank you, I said. That night, I sat on my brother's back porch with a cheap beer and listened to the wind push through bare trees. I felt tired in a clean way, like after you finish a job that needed to be done. I didn't win in the way movies show it. There was no crowd cheering. There was no dramatic revenge. There was just the quiet relief of not having to pretend. A month later, my bank dispute resolved. The retreat deposit was refunded fully. The vendor cancellations were processed. Some deposits we lost. That hurt, but it was the price of pulling out before things got worse. I also mailed the ring back to the jeweler under their return policy window. It wasn't sentimental at that point. It was an object tied to a promise Leela didn't keep. The refund hit my account a week later. I used some of it to pay down my truck. The rest went into savings. I moved into a small one-bedroom apartment near Lake Monona. It wasn't fancy. It was quiet. The first night there, I slept like I hadn't slept in months. Then life started filling in the empty spaces. I cooked real meals. I went for walks. I stopped checking my phone every time it buzzed. I showed up for my sister's dinner without worrying if my partner would embarrass me or cancel last minute. People asked if I was dating. I said no, not because I was broken, because I wanted my nervous system to stop expecting chaos. And then, about 3 months later, I got my final surprise. It wasn't from Lila, it was from the venue coordinator, Jenna. She emailed the wedding inbox, which I still had access to for record keeping. "Hi Grant," she wrote, "I wanted to let you know we received a request to reinstate your date. Leela asked if the contract could be put under a different name. I told her we cannot do that without both original parties signing. I'm sorry to bother you. I just wanted you to know." I sat with that for a long minute. She wasn't trying to fix things. She was trying to replace me in the paperwork the way she'd replaced me in her plans, like I was a line item. I replied to Jenna, "Thank you for the heads up. Please do not reinstate. Please close the file." Then I closed the wedding inbox for good. Now we circle back to that courthouse hallway where I started. That day I wasn't there to see Leela. I was there to finalize the last clean thread. The lease release had been processed, but there was a small dispute about the security deposit. Denise advised I file a simple claim so it would be documented properly. Nothing dramatic, just making sure my name stayed clear. Leela somehow found out the time. Maybe Denise told her. Maybe Paula saw an email. Maybe Leela still had access to something she shouldn't. Either way, she appeared like an actor late to the stage. After I said okay, she tried to restart the conversation, like we were in the middle of a fight and she just needed a better angle. "Do you know what you did to me?" she hissed. I looked at her. Her eyes were glossy, her hands clenched and unclenched. She wanted me to take responsibility for her choices. "I ended an engagement," I said, "because you were not honest with me." She scoffed. "You could have talked it out." "I did," I said. "You called it dramatic." A clerk opened the courtroom door and called my name. I stepped toward the door. Leela followed one step, then stopped. "Evan wasn't even worth it," she said, like that was supposed to change something. I paused and looked back at her. I didn't feel anger. I felt something quieter. I felt done. "This isn't about Evan's worth," I said. "It's about mine." Her face shifted. For a second, she looked like she might actually hear that. Then she did what she always did when she couldn't control the narrative. She went for the guilt. "You're going to die alone," she said. I nodded once like I was hearing a weather report. "Okay," I said. Then I went into the courtroom. The judge was polite. The paperwork was simple. The decision was fair. I walked out 10 minutes later with stamped documents and a clean record. I didn't see Leela in the hallway anymore. Maybe she left. Maybe she went to sit in her car and tell herself a version of the story where she didn't do anything wrong. A few weeks after that, I had my final encounter with her, and it didn't happen in a dramatic place like a bar or a party. It happened somewhere ordinary, which somehow made it more real. It was a Sunday evening in December at a church Christmas concert. I hadn't planned to go. I was not feeling festive, but Harold asked if I could help set up chairs, and I said yes because sometimes you say yes to community even when your heart is tired. I was stacking programs on a table when I heard Leela's laugh behind me. I turned and there she was in a red coat, stepping into the sanctuary like she belonged there, like nothing had happened. Evan was with her, taller than I expected, clean haircut, hands in his pockets like he was too casual for the room. Leela saw me and froze for a split second, then put on a smile like a mask. Evan glanced at me, then at her, then away, like he suddenly realized he was standing in the middle of someone else's life. The choir started singing, kids in scarves, older couples holding hands, the lights on the tree flickering soft. Leela walked toward me slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal. "Grant," she said, quiet. "Layla," I said. Her eyes moved over me like she was searching for proof that I was miserable. I was. I looked tired, sure, but calm. "I didn't think you'd be here," she said. "I help Harold sometimes," I said. She swallowed. "Can we talk after?" I looked at Evan, then back at her. "I don't have anything left to say," I said. Her face tightened. "I just want you to know, I didn't mean for it to happen like that." I nodded. "I believe you didn't mean to face consequences," I said, and even that felt like too many words. Evan shifted, uncomfortable. He leaned toward Leela and murmured something I couldn't hear. She snapped her head toward him like she'd forgotten he was there. That was the last image I needed, the same pattern, the same tug-of-war, the same restlessness. I didn't hate her, I didn't wish her harm, I just didn't want to be inside that pattern again. I hope you find peace, I said, but it won't be with me. Her eyes filled, she opened her mouth, then closed it. I turned away and went back to the chairs. During the final song, I stood in the back and listened. People were off-key, the piano was a little too loud, the kids sang like kids sing, brave and messy. And I realized something that took me a long time to learn. Quiet isn't weakness, quiet is control, quiet is the space where you can hear your own truth. Leela didn't ruin my life. She revealed what my life would have been if I kept ignoring the red flags, and I'm grateful I saw it before the vows, before the legal knots got tighter, before the story got harder to untangle. When the concert ended, I walked out into the cold. Snow crunched under my boots, my breath puffed in the air. My phone buzzed once, a text from an unknown number. "Can you please just talk to me?" I looked at it. I didn't feel the pull. I didn't feel the panic. I didn't feel the need to explain myself to someone who already chose not to listen. I deleted it. Then I got in my truck, turned on the heater, and drove home to a place that was quiet in the best way.